The search for the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie enters its fourth day. Authorities are looking into whether a ransom note sent to a local TV station is real. Police believe 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her home.
Just a very short distance from where the victim was last seen, several items were found along the same drainage wash behind the residential area in Tucson. What caught people's attention was not one single item, but the fact that multiple traces appeared in the same area, creating a chain of questions that is hard to ignore. Was it only a random coincidence? Or was it part of a planned route? This disappearance has now lasted for nearly 2 months, and with each passing day, even bigger questions keep appearing. The family is still waiting for answers while the public continues to follow every new update. But then the discoveries in the wash behind the house force the entire timeline to be looked at again from the beginning. One small detail can change the entire direction of reasoning. I want to make this clear, this is only analysis based on public information. Not a conclusion, not an accusation against anyone, just an attempt to understand what may have really happened. The attention is not only on the items that were found, but also on how they were found. This was not the result of a large search operation with dozens of people and heavy equipment. It started with one independent searcher, a content creator who had quietly been watching this area very early on. He did not come with authority, he did not represent any agency, and he did not make shocking claims just to get attention. What he brought into the search was method. Instead of following feelings or instincts, he used what is called a grid search, dividing the entire area into small sections, checking each part, systematically recording exact locations, marking unusual points, and then returning to check again many times to avoid missing anything. That repeated process is what made the difference. Sometimes in complex cases, the most important thing is not who searches, but how they search. The content in this video is for informational and reference purposes only. Although it has been cross-referenced with reputable sources, some details may have changed or may not be entirely accurate. Many people ask if that area had already been checked before. Why are new traces only appearing now? It sounds confusing, but in outdoor areas like a wash, where there is sand, rock, bushes, and seasonal water flow, the first search is almost never the last search. Strong wind can uncover small objects that were hidden before. A light rain can wash away a thin layer of mud covering something. Sand can shift in just a few days, and bushes can both hide and accidentally hold things that seemed gone. Some items may be completely invisible one day, but only a week later they can be lying right in plain sight. That is why, in field investigations, returning to the same location many times is not wasting time, it is a required rule. Sometimes the answer does not appear the first time you look, but the time you are patient enough to come back. And during those return visits, one first discovery made people pay closer attention to this area. Before reports of multiple scattered items appeared, there was already one piece of clothing found in the wash near the back of the house. The important part was not the item itself, but how it was handled. The searcher did not touch it, did not move it, and did not try to turn it into a shocking social media moment. He took photos of it exactly where it was found, documented its condition, and then reported it to authorities so they could approach it through the correct process. This is the right way to handle sensitive cases like this. Because even one small action, like picking it up, pulling it out, or moving it just a few inches, which is about a few centimeters, can change the value of evidence. In an investigation, the scene is not just where an object is found, but where its position tells the most important story. But the story did not stop with one single item. More checks led to a detail that made many people rethink this entire area. Not just one, but multiple items were recorded in the same wash system behind the neighborhood. And from that point, the questions started to change. If there was only one item, people could say it was a coincidence, something blown by wind, pushed by water, or simply unrelated. But when multiple separate traces appear in the same direction, the focus is no longer on each item alone, but on the pattern, a repeated model. Why are they gathering in the same area? Is it natural randomness, or does it reflect some kind of movement route? This is still not a conclusion, but clearly it makes the timeline of this case much harder to ignore. Sometimes the scariest thing is not one trace, but when many traces begin pointing in the same direction. To understand why this area matters so much, I want you to picture what a wash really is. It is not a main road. It is not a path people notice every day. A wash is more like a natural corridor, a dry drainage area, most of the time mixed with sand, rocks, bushes, and low, uneven ground that is hard to see clearly. Because very few people walk there and almost nobody pays attention to it, it creates spaces that are easy to miss on a normal observation map. In many neighborhoods like Tucson, these wash areas can also create blind spots from home security cameras or direct views from main roads. That does not mean anyone seen there is suspicious, and I am not making that claim. But in many field searches, this type of terrain always gets special attention, because if someone wanted to move without being seen immediately, natural corridors like this are often the first places investigators check. This is also what makes the discussion more sensitive. This wash route is not in some random distant place. It runs very close to the property connected to where the victim was last seen. That geographical closeness made many people ask more questions about movement direction, about the timeline, and about whether this area played a bigger role than people first believed. But I want to make this very clear. Up to this moment, there has been no official public announcement confirming that any specific person is a suspect based only on these findings. What we are doing here is not accusing anyone and not guessing based on emotion. This is only analysis based on geography, distance, and the reasonable probability of a field search. In cases like this, a distance of just a few dozen yards, which is about a few dozen meters, can matter more than hundreds of guesses. The most important thing is still waiting for verified information from authorities, not judgment from social media. And here is the most important part. When multiple items appear in the same wash system, there are usually only two reasonable explanations left. The first theory is random, meaning environmental coincidence. The items may have been carried by water from another place trapped at a natural bend, or pushed together by wind, sand, and terrain over time. In outdoor areas like this, that can absolutely happen, and it is not rare. The second theory is route, a movement path. This means someone may have used the wash as a less noticeable path, and during that movement, items were accidentally dropped or intentionally left behind along the way. Both theories are reasonable, and nobody should rush to choose one side based only on emotion. What matters is not guessing faster, but having strong enough scientific evidence to remove each weaker possibility. In real investigations, answers do not come from instinct. They come from what remains after weaker theories are removed. And that is exactly why, to move from suspicion to conclusion, the most important thing is not emotion or online speculation, but forensics, scientific checks that can verify every small detail. For example, do the found items contain DNA traces, fabric fibers, or any physical link that can directly connect them to the victim? Second, how long have these items been outside? Days, weeks, or even longer? Sun exposure, mud, and weather damage can all help tell part of the timeline. And third, do their positions match the natural water flow of the wash? Or do they look like they were placed down intentionally in specific spots? These are questions that cannot be answered by feelings. Without that data, every argument remains only a theory. In real investigations, the smallest detail can sometimes decide the entire story. And here is another very important detail. Viewers often do not truly understand a case until they see the map. Just one wash line, the property boundary, and the discovery points, marked by date. Suddenly, everything becomes much clearer. A 10-second graphic can sometimes be worth more than several minutes of explanation. When viewers can see the distance, movement, direction, and item locations, they do not just hear the story, they start connecting the details themselves. And that is what keeps people watching until the very end. This is also one reason true crime stories hold viewers longer, not only because of what is said, but because of the silence between the answers. Sometimes, a new discovery does not create impact because it is huge by itself, but because of how people react to it. When an important detail appears, an item, a time marker, a small change in the timeline, the public watches not only that information, but also the speed of the response after it. Who speaks up, who stays silent, who answers quickly but avoids the real point, and who completely avoids mentioning it. In sensitive cases, delay, vagueness, or gaps in communication often create more questions than the original event itself. But I want to make this very clear. Questions do not mean guilt. Silence does not automatically prove anything, and people react very differently under pressure. What it creates is only reasonable pressure for the truth to be made clearer. In investigations, sometimes the data is not only inside cameras or physical evidence, but also in the way a story is told or left untold. At this point, I want to hear your view. Based only on the public facts we have right now, do you lean toward random or route? If you choose random, try looking at the natural terrain, water flow, direction, wind, sand, and how objects can be carried or trapped over time. If you choose route, look at the camera gaps, the less noticeable movement paths, and why multiple items appeared in the same area, instead of being completely scattered by chance. No need for extreme conclusions, just clear and respectful reasoning. I will pin the most convincing analysis, and if there are new public updates from authorities, I will make part 2 right away to continue breaking down this timeline. In disappearances like this, sometimes the scariest thing is not rumors or arguments online, it is time. Every day that passes, if those items truly matter, sunlight, wind, rain, and natural damage can erase the most important details, the things that can never be found again a second time. A single fabric fiber, a tiny trace, or even just the original position of one object. All of it can change the value of the entire investigation. That is why what matters most right now is not fast judgment, but careful, complete, and transparent forensic work. Hopefully, every piece of needed evidence will be checked the right way, so that what feels unclear today can become a clear answer tomorrow. And in the end, everything will return to where it belongs, the truth.